welcome to my channel. My name is Kelsey and today's video is all about my healing journey with chronic illness. So in early 2018, I made my way up to Jacksonville, Florida. I moved there all by myself. I was living by myself for the first time in my life and I was so excited to have a fresh start, a new beginning, and just kind of get a redo. I had had a tough few years and started to feel myself slipping with my mental health a little bit, and so I just wanted to be proactive with the situation and do what felt best for me and my circumstances, which was moving. So I will give the whole moving story another day. That's for another time. However, it definitely started out very smoothly. Everything came together. It almost felt like God or the universe, whatever you believe in, was just shoving me straight to Jacksonville, and I was thrilled. And then as soon as I got there, everything just fell apart, and I was kind of sitting there like, hello, this was not how this was supposed to go. But after a couple of weeks, everything started to come back together, and I was really enjoying myself. And then about a month later, almost to the day, I woke up in a really weird amount of pain, and I was like, what is this? But I went to work. I was supposed to work a double that day, and as the day went on, the pain just started progressing from my wrists to my shoulders to my neck to my knees to my ankles. So it just gradually spread to all of my joints, and I felt very stiff. So I went into panic mode because I had never in my life experienced anything like this before, and I was supposed to close that evening and begged someone to stay for me because I was just hysterically crying. I was in so much pain, the most pain I had ever been in my life, and I knew that something was definitely wrong. So I called my mom, and her and I were in agreement that it didn't seem emergent enough for me to go to the hospital right then, right there. So I thought, okay, let me just sleep it off. We'll wake up in the morning, and if it's better, then whatever. It was just a fluky thing. That did not happen. I woke up, and if anything, it was worse. So there were a lot of tears, a lot of hyperventilation.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
No one was talking to you. So it took a lot of pep talks from my best friend and my mom, but I finally made my way to the hospital, and they told me that something was wrong. They could agree that it wasn't normal for me to be in this much pain, but everything looked good on their end. So long story short, I ended up finding my way to the Mayo Clinic, which was about 20 minutes from my apartment, and they were able to get me in about a month and a half after all of this started. There was some other doctor's appointments and such, but I'll spare you the details. So after my first appointment with a rheumatologist at the Mayo Clinic, he told me that he felt that I had fibromyalgia, and I was just like, what the heck is that? I had heard of it before in those like TV commercials where they talk about all of the random illnesses and things, but I didn't know anyone who had ever talked about having it. I did reading into it, and I'm like, this doesn't match my symptoms at all. What is he talking about? And then after that appointment, everything just kind of started to come together where I was like, okay, this actually does make a little bit of sense. I had some funky symptoms going on for a couple of years, but they were never consistent enough for me to be truly concerned. I just knew that I was sick all the time and would get random episodes where it felt like I had a cold or a flu, but after a week or so, or even a couple days, sometimes it would just go away, and I was never really sure of what it was, but looking back on it, it definitely makes a lot of sense. I would get a sore throat, I would have body aches, I would feel feverish, I would just feel really crappy, but never have like a runny nose or a cough or anything. So ding ding ding, that's exactly how my flare-ups continued once I actually knew what was going on. So he told me that that's what he thought I had. As time went on and I did more research and just kind of my symptoms started progressing, it definitely made a lot of sense that that could have been what it was. So about 2 months later, he wanted to see me again just to follow up and see how things were going. And I went through a 16-hour treatment program at the Mayo Clinic that was designed for people with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. I got a lot of good information. The program didn't really do anything for me. It does help a lot of people, apparently. They say they have an 80% success rate. I can just go by what I experienced. They basically wanted me to plan out my day every single day from the moment I wake up until the time I go to sleep, meditate 3 times a day, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It definitely just was not a treatment program in my opinion. It was just teaching you how to live with your symptoms, which is fine. It's something that you need to know how to do, but I didn't really benefit from it aside from the knowledge that I gained. So that is the gratitude that I have for the program, is the knowledge that I received about my syndrome, disorder, whatever you want to call it. So fast forward a few months later, some of the other symptoms that I were experiencing were chest pain, lightheadedness, dizziness, shortness of breath, nausea, and pre-syncopal episodes. For those of you who don't know, that's when you're feeling like you're about to pass out. And I had those symptoms for a little bit, but they just started getting worse. So I made my way back to the Mayo Clinic, where I saw a cardiologist. He was very thorough, awesome. He ran a bunch of tests to make sure that there wasn't anything wrong with my heart, because there are certain things that run in my family with the heart. So he just wanted to look into that. Everything came back normal. We had thought that I had POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I have some of the symptoms of POTS, or I did, but I didn't meet the diagnostic criteria because of certain things with my heart rate. So before one of the tests, they actually gave me a beta blocker, and for those who don't know, beta blockers do slow down your heart rate, and so my heart rate was completely normal on the test that tests for POTS. And I'd asked them about that. I said, hey, I have a test that is going to be checking for tachycardia before, or in a couple of hours. Is this going to affect that? And they're like, no. And I was like, okay, but you're giving me this because my heart rate is too fast for you to run the test that you need to do. So anyway, I was really upset after that because I just felt like I waited all this time. I mean, I waited probably 5 or 6 months to get these tests done, and I had gone through all of these episodes and all of these flare-ups, and then the one day that I needed everything to show up, it didn't. And a big reason why it didn't is because of a medication that I was given. And even the doctors that I spoke to after that were in agreement, like, why would they tell you that that wouldn't mess with your heart rate? Obviously it was. My heart rate was normal for 3 days after, which was awesome. But anyway, so I ended up seeing a neurologist who specializes in the autonomic nervous system at the Mayo Clinic a couple days after all of my cardiology testing and autonomic nervous system testing. And he looked at me and said, huh, interesting. And in that moment, I knew I was screwed. I was like, all right, here I am at one of the best hospitals in the country with one of the top doctors in this hospital, in this field, and he can't even figure out what's wrong with me. So he focused more so on my nerve pain, which I was thankful for. He did also do some tests. He tested me for MS and did a brain MRI and some nerve function testing just to make sure that everything was good. And again, everything came back normal, which is great. I don't want to sound ungrateful for that, but for those of you who have gone through something like this, it can be really frustrating to have a bunch of symptoms and feel like crap all of the time, and then you get all these tests done and everything comes back normal. So you feel crazy. At least I did. Literally, I was like, all right, am I just making all of this up? What is going on? Why can we not figure out what the heck is going on? Because it just seemed like more than fibromyalgia. Granted, fibromyalgia can cause up to 100 different symptoms. So, fun fact, it is actually a disorder of the central nervous system and not a musculoskeletal disorder such as lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or different autoimmune conditions. It is a condition that is caused by dysfunction in the central nervous system, typically referred to as central sensitization. At least that is how it was explained to me at the Mayo Clinic. Anyway, I also ended up seeing an allergist immunologist, and I am so thankful for my allergist. She quite literally saved my life. She found 13 food allergies and over 40 environmental allergies. She also was able to figure out why I have such bizarre reactions to the majority of medications on the market. She ended up finding a genetic mutation, which is a pretty common one, but for whatever reason it affects the way that my body metabolizes medication, so I guess that's why I have so many weird reactions. I was dealing with all of this for about 2.5 years, and fast forward to this past April, May, I was unemployed and my health was just not doing very well. I figured that since I had so much time to just rest and research and figure out what was going to do best for my body, that I would be feeling better, and I definitely wasn't. Then I ended up finding someone called the Spiro Clinic, or something called the Spiro Clinic, and I'm so thankful for them. I actually saw them because a girl that I follow on Instagram, her friend went through the program, and she had something called CRPS, which stands for Complex Regional Pain Syndrome, and it is a very severe nerve pain condition. 10 out of 10 pain all the time. It's really intense, really debilitating. It's an awful disorder for a lot of people, and they specialize in treating that and other nerve pain conditions. So I did a lot of research into the program, and I knew that it was definitely not in my budget, but it was just always something in the back of my head. And as I was going through this unemployment period, I started seeing more and more about things that the Spiro Clinic was doing from afar. So I joined a couple of their video webinars, got a lot of really great information, ended up finding out that one of my biggest food triggers was grains, which made so much sense because I gave up gluten. I tried going gluten-free about 3 times and it just never worked. And it's because gluten-free products are typically made out of other grains, such as rice or quinoa, other grains. So I ended up finding out about that, gave up grains, and that was huge. I noticed a huge shift in my pain giving up grains. I found the medical medium and started celery juice, also made a huge difference with my pain. And all of these things are things that worked for me. I'm not saying that they're scientifically backed or things that are going to work for you. This is just my personal testimony on these specific treatment options that I chose to partake in. And I was so thankful to have those things, but it would wax and wane. There were still times where I was in a lot of pain. It didn't make sense, and I was feeling very, very hopeless and defeated, and just kind of, what's the point? That was where my mindset started going, is what's the point in living this life to just constantly be in pain and suffering? And I was really starting to slip, and I did not expect to cry. Thinking back on it is hard because I never really opened up about how bad it did get and where my mindset was. So, okay. We're good. So I sat down with my family and we had a meeting to brainstorm how we could come up with the money to get me to the clinic, because it was very expensive, like new car expensive, and that was not in my means. It was not in my immediate family's means, so we were trying to figure out different ways that we could fundraise and things we could do to come up with the money to get me to the Spiro Clinic. And the Spiro Clinic was the first time that I felt hope that I was going to get better and get my life back. And to be honest, prior to that, I was scared of getting better because I was so afraid of, all right, well, what if I get better and then I get back on my feet, I start living my life again, and then it happens again. I knew that mentally I was not going to be able to handle the weight of the grieving process a second time. And that was a big roadblock in me finding hope, because again, I had that, what's the point? What's the point in getting better now if it's just going to happen again later? We came up with some ideas on how to get me there. That was the plan. The plan was come up with the money, get to Spiro Clinic, and move forward with my life. And a couple days after we had this meeting, I was watching YouTube videos. I was watching this family who I hadn't watched in years, which was so bizarre. They randomly came back up in my feed, and so I started watching, and I randomly found my way to a video titled Pain-Free Birth. And the title was just so obscure that I had to click on it. So I'm watching this video, and the woman is talking about how she did this tapping thing. And I'm like, oh, that's funny. My cousin did the tapping thing, or told me about the tapping thing a couple years ago, and I just never really thought anything of it. I was like, oh, whatever, you tap, what's that gonna do? So I'm watching the video, and the woman who was the practitioner guiding the YouTuber through the whole process with her birth said that she had been severely chronically ill, was bedbound, and tapping healed her. And I was like, hold up, wait a second, I need to find this woman's story. So I did my creepy stalker thing. I think that in today's day and time, a lot of us are able to find information. We make it work. So I ended up finding her story. I found her website, and she did actually have a couple of the things that I did. She had fibromyalgia, and the Mayo Clinic couldn't formally diagnose me with POTS, but they said that they thought I was on the POTS spectrum, so my symptoms lied in that realm of illness, and she had POTS as well. So I was like, wow, I wonder if this would work for me. What she practiced is called Faster EFT, and so I made my way to the Faster EFT website, where I ended up finding a practitioner who also had something that I had. She had fibromyalgia, and I read her story, and I just resonated with it so much, and she said that you could reach out to her with any questions. So I emailed her, and I was just like, hey, my name is Kelsey. I am looking into some different options because I am also chronically ill, and I am looking for some different ways to heal. I'm really interested in learning more about Faster EFT. And I expected her to get back to me in like maybe a couple days, if never, you know. It was just one of those emails that I crossed my fingers and hoped, but I didn't really expect much from it. And within 15 minutes, she had already emailed me back and told me to sign up for a free consultation. And the only slot she had open was the next day for like 2 or 3 weeks. That was the only day she had open, which I thought was super bizarre. So I signed up for the consultation, and Aaron sat in on it with me, which was really nice because I just wanted to make sure that since I had just gotten this glimpse of hope, that I wasn't seeing things through rose-colored glasses and wasn't getting my hopes up on something that someone else thought seemed too far-fetched. So I just wanted a second set of ears, but he completely agreed that my practitioner sounded very genuine, and she was super sweet, and she actually did a little mini session with me that changed my life. It genuinely, to my core, to my soul, altered who I am in the best way. And just the little 15 minutes, I was like, wait a second, what? So I immediately signed up and scheduled my appointments because I was like, okay, if this 15-minute session, if that, just did this much, what is one of the 2-hour sessions going to do? And I was very lucky to be in a place where I had a little bit of money put aside, so I used that, and it's not cheap, but it is a lot cheaper than what it was going to cost to get me to the Spiro Clinic in Arkansas. So I decided I was going to try this first. There was nothing I could really lose aside from the money, but I just felt so hopeful about it that it was completely worth it, and I'm healing. Here I go again. I've been doing this for about, 3 months now, 2 months. And at first, I would wait for the emotions to come out about it because I was getting my life back. But the emotions would never come. And looking back on it now, I know it's because I was scared that it was too good to be true. And I was too scared to talk about it because I was like, okay, don't get your hopes up, don't get your hopes up. But I'm genuinely totally, truly healing. And I'm so thankful. Faster EFT is one of, if not the best thing that has ever come into my life, and it is a beautiful tool for you to take your power back. I'm not saying that this is the end-all be-all for everyone. Everyone has something different that is going to benefit you in your mind and body, but from the moment that I had my first full session, I had a reduction in my symptoms. And after my second session, we tapped away a migraine that had me hiding under blankets, so sick I was scared I was going to vomit during the session. And it was gone. And then after that session, I was able to start tapping away my nerve pain. For the first month or so with EFT, I wasn't really crying, which felt so bizarre because I'm such a sentimental, emotional person that I would literally just sit there and like kind of wait for the tears and they would just never come. So I'm still not sure what that was, but I cry a little bit more now than I did then, but not nearly as much as I used to. So it feels really weird to be crying about this because I haven't yet. I'm just so thankful. There are no words for the gratitude. And before I started EFT, I was in a place where I was feeling really drawn back to God, and I've always believed in a God. Religion itself is something that has made me uncomfortable for quite a while now, and that's just my personal opinion. It's my personal experience. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with religion. This is just my truth and my experience. So I talked to quite a few people about it and started opening my mind more to the idea of praying again and maybe going to church, and I'll listen to worship music sometimes. It's something that brings me a lot of peace. And I was driving to pick up Aaron from work one day, and I just said, all right, God, if you're real, give me a sign. I'm looking. My eyes are open. My heart is open. Just give me a sign. And the first sign was actually a tarot card reading from a very sweet girl on Twitter. And I resonated with it so much, it just absolutely astonished me. And then everything just started coming together so beautifully. And everything that I've been asking for. Everything that I've been asking for the last few years was coming to fruition. I was starting to experience it. I would ask to be able to eat whatever I wanted again, and I can eat whatever I want. I asked to be able to eat whatever I wanted again because my diet had become very restricted, and it was causing me to take steps backward in my recovery from an eating disorder. And I just wanted to be able to have a healthy relationship with food, mind, and body. And I can eat whatever I want. And I had asked to be able to travel, and I'm working for a travel company where I can now afford to travel. And I asked for relief from my pain, and I have so much relief. I honestly didn't think that I was ever going. I didn't think that I was ever going to find this much relief, because no matter what I did or what I tried, nothing really helped. There were things that would take the edge off a little bit. But it got to the point where my doctor, bless her heart, she looked me in the eyes, and I just saw the sadness in her eyes and her face, and she said, I don't know what to do for your pain. And I just laughed, and I said, well, me neither. So I honestly can't wait to go back and tell her everything that has gone on and all of the relief that I have. But this whole experience has just shown me how powerful the mind is. And my personal experience has been that a lot of what I was suffering with physically was due to trauma and patterns that had been created and stuck in my subconscious mind. And I am not saying that that is the case for everyone. That's just where mine stemmed from, because all of this pain was stuck in my brain that I had never actually worked through, and it was manifesting itself in my central nervous system. So I've learned a lot about that and have been able to heal from so many things that I didn't even know were affecting me, things as far back as before kindergarten. And so it's been so odd to go back to these things that I had no idea were so powerful and were stuck in my mind. And it completely changed my life. This whole experience has completely changed my life, and I don't want to say I'm thankful that I got sick, because that sounds so weird, and if I could have changed it, to be honest, I probably would, because I wouldn't wish what I've been through on my worst enemy. And I know that so many people have it worse, and my heart just goes out to you if you're going through something like this, because I know how isolating it is. I know how defeating it can feel, and it just honestly sucks getting your whole life ripped away from you and having to relearn how to live while grieving your past life. It's like grieving the loss of yourself while you're still alive. It's a very bizarre experience. I am thankful for the lessons that I have learned from my time being sick, because I've learned how I want to treat people and how we should treat people of all abilities, and of course all genders, all races, all ethnicities, all everything. Just be kind. I feel like it has made me a lot more mindful of how I treat people and how I say things. And I'm still learning. I am not perfect. I will never claim to be. It is a lifelong journey, a lifelong lesson. But I am so thankful to know what I know now, and that I was able to learn these things young so that I can enforce them for the rest of my life. So if you're watching this and you're going through a hard time right now, whether it be your physical health, your mental health, just life in general, and you need a glimpse of hope or light at the end of the tunnel, hi, I was in your shoes not too long ago, and I ask you to hold on a little bit longer, because there's something out there for everyone to provide at least a little bit of relief. And it is not your fault that you're in the situation that you're in. No one deserves a life of pain or a life of suffering. You deserve relief, you deserve healing, and I wish I could hug you. My heart goes out to you. I know that you can do this. I know that you will find your life's purpose through this. And yeah, so if anyone has any questions about Faster EFT, please let me know. I'm still learning, but I'm happy to do my best to answer them. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you sticking it out and hearing my truth, and thank you for allowing me to have this space to share. So I hope you have a great day. Bye.